How did you come to the ministry of exorcisms?
So every Catholic bishop is an exorcist by virtue of his episcopal ordination. And then the Code of Canon Law says that a bishop can appoint one of his priests to be an exorcist. And so I was appointed to be the exorcist for the Archdiocese of Indianapolis back in 2005. A bishop can appoint any priest to do an exorcism on an individual basis, or he can appoint one of his priests on a stable basis to deal with all of the questions and inquiries that might come up in a local diocese. So I've been doing this now for 11 years.
Wow, okay. How does the typical exorcism work?
An exorcism at its very core is a prayer of the church. There are two types of exorcisms. There's a supplicating exorcism, which is a prayer directed to God, asking God to bring relief in the life of the person who's suffering. There can also be an imperative or a major exorcism, and that would be a command given to the demon itself, the presence of evil. So supplicating exorcism, God is being addressed. An imperative exorcism, the demon is being addressed. And as a liturgical rite of the church, there is a prescribed way that an exorcism is performed.
Okay. Is there an increase in demonic activity?
I always tell people that I don't believe that there's, it's not that the devil has increased his game, but perhaps today more people are willing to play the devil's game.
Right.
A recent stat suggested those in the 18 to 29-year-old age bracket, 70% of people in that age group no longer profess any religious affiliation. And so, faith in God will lead us in one direction, a lack of faith will lead us in another. And perhaps because faith is in decline, people might be more likely to get involved in those things that might eventually cause them to come into a genuine encounter with evil. Sometimes people do that directly, so they're doing things that they know they shouldn't do, but they do it anyway.
Right.
Sometimes indirectly, perhaps people are doing something they think is fun and entertaining, not realizing that it could open up some type of avenue to evil into their life. Yes.
What are some of the most extreme possessions you have witnessed?
I think it's always good the church identifies 4 different types of extraordinary demonic activity. So there's demonic infestation, which has to do with presence of evil in a location or associated with an object. There's demonic vexation, which are physical attacks that a person believes they're encountering from an evil spirit. There's demonic obsession, which are mental attacks, and then demonic possession, whereby some demon will take over a person's body, treating that body as if it were its own. And there's different types of manifestations. The church identifies things like bodily contortions, eyes rolling back in the head, people foaming at the mouth, growling or snarling, being animalistic in nature, bad smells, drop in the temperature of a room. The church also says to look for signs of the demonic that come out of the introduction to the rite of exorcism, speaking languages otherwise unknown to the individual, exhibiting strength beyond the normal capacity of the individual, elevated perception so the person knows things that they shouldn't otherwise know, and then an aversion to anything of a sacred nature, such as holy water, a crucifix, a Bible, a relic, and so on.
Okay.
And the manifestations are meant to distract, so whether it's, I witnessed someone levitate one time during an exorcism, but a lot of those things are just meant to instill fear and distract. That way, if the prayer of the church is disrupted, then the presence of evil believes that it can stay where it is.
Can you become possessed without your consent, without some act of your own will?
We all have free will, so you're right. So people can use that free will to invite evil in. And again, I think people can do that either directly or indirectly. So as an exorcist, I would always look for, if evil truly is present, what's the entry point for evil into this person's life? Ties to the occult could be an entry point. Being dedicated to a demon through a curse, inviting a demon in, broken relationships, those are some ways that people do that. And again, sometimes people knowingly invite evil in directly. Sometimes they kind of do it indirectly. They dabble in things of the occult nature, such as being involved in a seance or playing with Ouija boards and things like that. They think it's fun and entertaining, but it could actually be fostering a relationship with evil.
So that kind of helps me with my next question. It would be, what is your opinion of tools such as Ouija boards and the dangers that they pose?
A lot of those things, like Ouija boards, or even going to see a psychic or a medium, a power is being called upon. But what is that power? Because in the book of Deuteronomy, in chapter 18, it talks about not dabbling with those types of things, because it's a violation of the first commandment that nothing should take the place of God. And when people play things like a Ouija board and they're asking questions, who are they calling upon? If it's not the Holy Spirit, then it could be evil that's found a way. And again, people are using their free will. They're using this game, and then they're inviting evil to interact with them. Sometimes people may do things out of a sense of curiosity, and then that curiosity will lead to a reliance, like, wow, I did this and I got an answer, so I need to go again. And then that reliance will lead to a relationship, and then that relationship could be with evil, and then the person's life will start to unravel.
What do you think about the popularity such as television shows like Ghost Adventures? Are people putting themselves in danger by pursuing study of the paranormal?
I would say yeah, because most exorcists will tell you that what these people that are doing ghost hunting, they're actually encountering 99% of the time are evil spirits. St. Thomas Aquinas would say that spirits are neither here nor there. We say they're here or there if they're choosing to act there. And usually when it comes to ghost hunting, it's the very things that those people are doing in that location that are causing the evil to manifest. It's not like the evil lives at that address.
Right.
You and I have an address where we live, but spirits don't. So they act where they're called upon. And so when people are in these homes doing things, that's what's actually causing the evil to manifest. But again, it's not like they live at that address. Right. If it is, I was going to say too that if it's not an evil spirit, say it's the soul of one who's died, well, God has to be permitting that to happen, because the soul of one who dies can't choose to continue to act in this reality unless God is permitting it to happen. And usually if it's the soul of someone who's died, it's always something of a prayerful nature. They're seeking prayers. So it really isn't anything terrifying about that.
Are prayers in Latin, the Church's official language, more effective during an exorcism?
Some people believe that. I don't, because I believe that the most important thing is the fact that one is praying, and also the holiness of the person doing the prayers. There's a great story in the Old Testament when Moses goes to Pharaoh and says, God says to let my people go. And then the staff that Moses has in his hand turns into a serpent, which would appear to be magic. And then Pharaoh's magicians do the same thing. Their staffs turn into serpents as well. So what's the difference between the two? If staffs are turning into serpents. And the difference is that Moses is a man of God. And because he's a man of God, there's that certain amount of holiness around him. So to me, the most important thing is not the rubrics per se, whether it's Latin or some other language. Is one really being sincere in their prayer. So the element of faith to me is what's really important. The current rite of exorcism came out in 1999. It was the last liturgical rite to be updated after the Second Vatican Council, because prior to that revision, it remained unchanged since the year 1614. So from 1614 until 1999, the ritual basically was the same. When that revision came out, it was tweaked again in the year 2004, but some people said they didn't like it because they said, it doesn't seem to be as forceful as the rite of 1614. But to me, that's not a good argument to have, because it's the prayer of the church. And really in an exorcism, I don't have any special powers or abilities. I work at the discretion of the bishop. The power and the authority comes from Christ. That's where it is. So to get caught up in the semantics of language and all that, to me, is not a good thing. To me, it's really about the holiness of the person who's administering the rite of the church.
My final question is, how do we protect ourselves and our family from demonic possession?
We don't have to do anything extraordinary to protect ourselves. It's the most ordinary things that we do. As Catholics, if you're going to Mass, if you're celebrating the sacraments, if you're praying, the devil's already on the run. You know, I tell people I like to watch Animal Planet shows. You know, when the lion is stalking its prey, and who does it go after? And there's two categories. It goes after the weakest. It may go after the strongest if the strongest becomes isolated. So if it wanders away from the herd, you know, that maybe the wildebeest is by itself, then it's vulnerable. And that teaches us that we need to be strong in our faith. And we also need to recognize the important role that other people play in our lives, the sense of community. Because there's a lot of people today, you'll hear say, well, I'm spiritual, but I don't need to go to church. But that negates the important role that other people play in our lives, helping us to grow and develop the way that God intends us. And we all know the old adage, there's strength in numbers. So we should rely on the role that other people play in our lives. And again, keep ourselves strong by simply living out our faith. So if we do those things, we don't really have anything to worry about. Because even as an exorcist, my goal is not to see the devil everywhere, but it's to help people who believe they are afflicted by evil to once again see the face of God in their lives.